Avant-garde music is music that is considered to be at the forefront of innovation in its field, with the term avant-garde implying a critique of existing aesthetic conventions, rejection of the status quo in favor of unique or original elements, and the idea of deliberately challenging or alienating audiences. Avant-garde music may be distinguished from experimental music by the way it adopts an extreme position within a certain tradition, whereas experimental music lies outside tradition. Experimental music is a general label for any music or music genre that pushes existing boundaries and genre definitions. Experimental compositional practice is defined broadly by exploratory sensibilities radically opposed to, and questioning of, institutionalized compositional, performing, and aesthetic conventions in music. Elements of experimental music include indeterminacy, in which the composer introduces the elements of chance or unpredictability with regard to either the composition or its performance. Artists may approach a hybrid of disparate styles or incorporate unorthodox and unique elements.
Please excuse any mispronunciations by TTS. The English TTS has trouble with non-English words. But, if you watch Zentraya, you should be fine. As a result of YouTube's rules pertaining to links in descriptions, I will be adding site details to the video.
Crossover is a term applied to musical works or performers who appeal to different types of audiences. This can be seen, for example, when a song appears on two or more of the record charts, which track differing musical styles or genres. In some contexts, the term crossover can have negative connotations associated with cultural appropriation, implying the dilution of a music's distinctive qualities to appeal to mass tastes. For example, in the early years of rock and roll, many songs originally recorded by African American musicians were re-recorded by white artists such as Pat Boone in a more toned-down style, often with changed lyrics, that lacked the hard edge of the original versions. These covers were popular with a much broader audience. Crossover frequently results from the appearance of the music in a film soundtrack. For instance, Sacred Harp music experienced a spurt of crossover popularity as a result of its appearance in the 2003 film Cold Mountain, and bluegrass music experienced a revival due to the reception of 2000's Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Classical crossover broadly encompasses both classical music that has become popularized in a wide variety of popular music forms performed in a classical manner or by classical artists. It can also refer to collaborations between classical and popular performers, as well as music that blends elements of classical music, including operatic and symphonic, with popular music, including pop, rock, middle of the road, and Latin, among other types. Pop vocalists and musicians, opera singers, classical instrumentalists, and occasionally rock groups primarily perform classical crossover. Although the phenomenon has long been widespread in the music industry, record companies first used the term classical crossover in the 1980s. It has gained in popularity since the 1990s and has acquired its own Billboard chart. A means of generating vast popularity for the classics has been through their use as inspirational anthems in sports settings. The aria Nessun Dorma from Puccini's Turandot, especially Luciano Pavarotti's version, has become indissolubly linked with soccer. Within the classical recording industry, the term crossover is applied particularly to classical artists' recordings of popular repertoire such as Broadway show tunes. Two examples of this are Leslie Garrett's excursions into musical comedy and Jose Carreras's recording West Side Story, as well as Teresa Straita's recording Showboat. Soprano Eileen Farrell is generally considered to be one of the first classical singers to have a successful crossover recording with her 1960 album I've Got a Right to Sing the Blues. The first Three Tenors concert in 1990 was a landmark in which Luciano Pavarotti, Jose Carreras, and Placido Domingo brought a combination of opera, Neapolitan folk song, musical theater, and pop to a vast television audience. This laid the foundations for the modern flourishing of classical crossover. Collaborations between classical and popular performers have included Sting and Edin Karamazov's album Songs from the Labyrinth. A collaboration between Freddie Mercury and soprano Montserrat Caballé resulted in the worldwide hit Barcelona. R&B singer Mariah Carey performed a live duet with her mother Patricia, who is an opera singer, of the Christmas song O Come, All Ye Faithful. Welsh mezzo-soprano Catherine Jenkins performed a duet with rock singer Michael Bolton of O Holy Night. Singers and instrumentalists from the classical tradition, Andreas Dorschel has argued, run the risk of losing the sophistication of the genre they were trained in, when they try to perform rock music, without coming up to the often rough and wild qualities of the latter. Italian pop tenor Andrea Bocelli, who is the biggest-selling singer in the history of classical music, has been described as the king of classical crossover. British soprano Sarah Brightman is also considered a crossover classical artist, having released albums of classical, folk, pop and musical theatre music. Brightman dislikes the classical crossover label, though she has said she understands the need to categorize music. In the 2008 Polish release of her symphony album she sings, "I Will Be With You," with Polish tenor Andrzej Lampert, another artist who has performed in both classical and non-classical styles, as well as having actually obtained full musical training and academic degrees in both, though operatic singing is his main professional focus.